Have you guys ever thought about how to possibly make life worse in Terraria? Make it a living hell, basically. And I'm simply not dying enough, and not having a stroke every time I die. By playing Calamity on the hardest setting possible, Infernum. Regular people would opt to use ranged weapons. However, instead of shooting laser death beams, rainbow bullets, or letting a JoJo stand hit for us outside of our screen, we are instead playing the game in true melee, having to come face first at these bosses with new movesets as they hurtle upon many projectiles towards us as they try to min-max my damage without getting brain damage every single time I get hit. Making it even worse is that if I touch these bosses, I take damage. All the mods that I will be using will be in the description, so we will just jump into the game. Starting off by simply getting wood to set up our basic crafting while we get our first NPC. After adding our magic storage, because finding loot in regular chests is simply just asking for painstaking death, we then set up to the left part of the world to find a cave and start mining for ores and amazing loot. After mining a bit, we then found a great weapon that carried us through this early game, the Trident. Found in this water chest in the ice biome. Now some of you might be wondering, isn't the volcano the best weapon to get because the Reaver Shark is not nerfed? And the answer to your question is yes. I am not a professional Terraria player though, especially for modded, so I didn't know this until I was raging over how to kill the Desert Scourge. But hey, at least in this seed, I got 3 Hermes boosts before having to fight it. Not too far from the Trident, I was able to get the first pair of Hermes boots inside this chest. After having a full inventory of decent accessories and gold armor, I naively decided to fight the King Slime first with this abhorrent arena that it created, but with my skill, I was able to beat it easily. Yeah, I let King Slime's slimy body eat me up good before I decided to head off to the desert instead, just to make another horrible arena and fight the Desert Scourge in its home territory. With a great piercing weapon like the Trident against a worm and amazing defense, it would be impossible not to beat it, and it seemingly looked like I was going to be able to beat the boss in no time. All seemed well for the first run until everything was very much going well. Just to let you know, I could not find a single goblin scout to drop the items to spawn a goblin army and reforge my items with a goblin tinker, so I just put my pants on and fought it many times over and over again. Fortunately, after some time of bashing my head against the wall, a blood wound spawned, so I was finally able to upgrade my weapon from a Trident to a burnt sienna. This weapon had better damage and range, making the fight easier. However, I don't think this weapon is actually true melee anymore at the time I was playing, but after beating the Desert Scourge, I went to get the volcano anyways after learning that the Reaver Shark can mine Hellstone. So, sorry for that. But for the rest of the bosses, I used all the items that Calamity deems true melee. We then kidnap the angler and feed him to our good friend here, so that he can drop his signature item, a golden fishing rod. After getting the golden fishing rod, we then get the Reaver Shark, allowing us to go to hell and start mining for Hellstone. After getting Hellstone and crafting a volcano and some molten armor, we then get our revenge against King Slime's slimy figure once again for a quick victory with the volcano. The strategy used in this fight was basically just me standing next to the big guy and moving left or right whenever he jumps, because running away is really hard when you don't have a dash. The Infernum developers really liked having the player suffer by adding a killable object associated with the boss, and by killing it you would ease the fight. But for true melee, you can't really do anything about it because it moves around with your position. So the only thing you can really do is hope that when you look back at your HE bar that it's now at 1%. However, we were able to beat King Slime easily. If you haven't noticed already, but I've started making my prisons for my NPCs as what most Terraria players do, because the boss fights and the progression are the stars of this game. This is not the time to be making houses though, because we start our third boss fight of the game, the Eye of Cthulhu. The Eye of Cthulhu actually took me several in-game nights to defeat. Yes, even with molten armor, because for some reason it does 60 damage a hit still. However, with the help of one of the goats of basketball, Curry lands a shot from the moon, we are able to quickly take down Eye of Cthulhu without dying in the process. Not even close. After killing the Eye of Cthulhu, we are then able to suit up with the best accessory in the game, the Eye of Cthulhu, allowing us to dash horizontally. Following the death of the Eye of Cthulhu, we made our way to the Sunken Sea to look for some more loot, where we are greeted with a very warm welcome by a big clam, where I decided to challenge it and immediately get murdered by its giant pearl balls, because no one told me that this giant clam is just the Torch God reincarnated. After getting booty blasted by a giant clam, I start making some renovations to my very ugly, humble abode, increasing our prison cell count by 2. Making our way to the left side of the map again, I began to create another arena to fight the 2 bosses in the Carp biome, the first being the Eater of Worlds, and then the next, the Hive Mind. After setting up the arena, we begin to take on another boss, the Eater of Worlds. This boss is one of the more relatively simple bosses. The goal was to not get hit by its green bomb balls, since that's basically the only projectile it has. Nevertheless though, the boss still has 3 phases, doubling itself every single time it dies, making it difficult to precisely dodge the attacks as they hurl their cyclops looking face towards us. It proved no difficulty however, because we can just focus on dodging their vomit balls, because their movement speed is not very fast after they split up. The boss was taken very lightly as I professionally dodged all of its basic attacks against us, focusing all of my melee brain power into hitting this lanky worm. They stood little to no chance against us with another sweep easy victory. With no breaks in mind whatsoever, we jump straight into the next boss, the second corruption boss, the Hive Mind, yet another simple boss, where its attack patterns are very easy to dodge, since its only attacks are fundamentally raining slow motion green water at us and dashing towards us once in century. Even more, the boss fight is a try not to sleep challenge because it instantly runs away at a single hit from our sword. But you know what's not sleeper though, is this banging music. After a couple tries, we were able to defeat the second corrupt boss in a very swift manner, getting one step closer to entering hard mode. The death of the Hive Mind allows us to fly up to the skies to start mining some aerolite ore at the Sky Islands for some other gear. We didn't need much aerolite ore though, because the broken biome lid is not a true melee weapon unfortunately, and the other accessories were relatively easy and cheap to make. With our next goal, that being really easy to accomplish, was to create a jungle pylon for quick teleportation to the jungle biome as we fight the Queen Bee. Fortunately for us, the Queen Bee arena is relatively close to our pylon, decreasing our internal rage for having to walk back to the arena by half. We then start to form the Queen Bee area into a proper arena for our fights. After completing the arena, we are then able to jump straight into the Queen Bee boss battle. This boss really tests your skills in timing the drop down and sword swing, because the big bee never gets close at all until it starts ramming itself towards us several times, and after it stops shooting its poisonous stingers. The second phase is actually where it allows us to actually attack without having to consistently dodge projectiles. Many times in this fight I almost died as I opted for the more aggressive strategy. This boss entering its second phase, I would say, is actually easier than the first phase because of it right here standing still. Even though I say that as I almost died multiple times in the second phase. But it's not about how you start in the boss battle, it's about how you end, and that's by beating this boss. Fortunately for us though, this boss did not take as long as the next boss on the list, Skeletron. After defeating the Queen Bee, Skeletron was our next fight, and we extended the arena here next to our home And it may seem like we are going quick with fighting these bosses, but technically we are, because the best gear that we could possibly have at the current stage of the game we already have, and that is molten armor and the volcano. So fighting bosses was our only goal, mostly in pre-hard mode. This boss is one of the hardest boss in pre-hard mode, I'd say, just for the sole reason that it is basically impossible to hit it as true melee, as it always runs away and does way too much damage with its bony face. The one thing that this boss forces us to do is literally just be patient, because if we're not, we are just going to get boned every single time and lose our will to live. After probably 2 hours of fighting this boss over and over again, trying to learn its attack patterns, we start to get the hang of it. Not getting boned every second is probably the key to beating the boss. Baiting him down is what we start doing so that we can get free hits off on his skull. After beating Skeletron, we are then able to get our next weapon for the playthrough, a Knight's Edge, right after we kill the Slime God though, for its... Here we are fighting another slime boss, another bullet hell boss, but it's a slime boss, so they aren't that difficult. This is one of the bosses actually, where the more there are, the easier it actually is, because at one point they just both stand still and I am able to hit them for free. I'll be only one of them. After killing the blue one's friend, we are able to fight it one-on-one. After killing both of these slimes, we then are able to fight the real slime god for a quick and easy victory. After the death of Slime God, we waste no time in fighting the Wall of Flesh by throwing the guide voodoo doll into the lava. It is a true melee's dream to fight the Wall of Flesh, because we don't take any contact damage to its eyes, and using a new weapon, the Knight's Edge, and an Infernal Potion, we are able to mince the Wall of Flesh to enter into hard mode. The only real challenge of this boss is dodging its 4-eye laser beams. After defeating the Wall of Flesh, we are now in hard mode. If this video ever reaches the sunlight, I hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next challenge ahead.